Heaven's Journey to Life. Wave Theory of Creation. Day 62. To read this post, it must be understood that we're walking this process and blog, Heaven's Journey to Life, multidimensionally, which means each post covers one dimension, but is interconnected into and as multi-dimensions in our process of walking the point in question of who I am and how this I created and manifested this entire physical existence. Thus suggested to read this blog from day one, as many of the points in previous dimensions and days and posts are always brought through into the next days and dimensions and posts, as all the dimensions interconnect as the multidimensionality we've created and manifested as our separation, as energy consciousness from of life, equality, and oneness. Thus, if one is faced with this post and have not yet read this blog from day one, suggest that self first start from day one, as otherwise one will have no context of many dimensions that is walked in this post, that has been dealt with in detail in previous posts. As mentioned in the previous post, we're continuing with the moment of competition between the atom and male and even female singularities for the space of substance between them. Go into more detail regarding the molecules into infinity manifesting themselves into a point of consuming themselves as energy, and within this, why and how energy returned to substance. I forgive myself that I haven't accepted and allowed myself to, in and as equality and oneness, with and as energy and substance, from and in the beginning, remember, see, realize, and understand how the molecules into infinity as the reach of the atom and male and even female singularities, aura, and presence manifestation were forced into and as their one location and position within existence, equally as one as how the atom and male and even female singularities forced themselves into and as their one location and position in and as existence, through moving closer and closer and closer together, diminishing and lessening the space between them, as the process of condensing themselves into and as the one aura and presence manifestation to experience the external positive energy experience, interpretation equally. Where as the atom and male and even female singularities were moving closer and closer and closer together, so did their molecules into and as infinity, and with what happens in the small, so equally as one happens in the big. Thus, as the molecules into infinity forced into and as their one location and position in existence, bundled and manifested together with the space between them lessening and lessening, consuming more and more substance from within the external existence of substance, as they continue moving closer and closer and closer together, and eventually merging into each other, they equally as one move inward into the depths of their substance within their own molecules, consuming substance to transform into energy. Within this process, the molecules are forced to constantly and continuously consume substance, externally and internally, to transform into energy, to the point where the more they move closer and closer and closer together into each other, yet still maintaining their individual molecule formation and structure, the more they consume their internal substance and the external substance that is becoming less and less and less. As the space between them diminish and lessen, and the substance within them diminish and lessen, as the extent and amount of opportunity and substance available to them within and as their molecule manifestations, consuming to the point where they're so solidified within and as that one point in location and position within existence that they cannot move any deeper into existence externally, and so cannot move any deeper into the substance of themselves within themselves, so that they consume only the substance that is available to them in the depths that they can reach. And so stuck within and as that one point in position and location within substance and existence, start consuming the only substance available to them internally and externally, diminishing from the positive to the neutral and to the negative within themselves as the substance available to them externally and internally diminish and lessen to nothing. And all they become is energy that consume itself. And because the molecules were merged into each other, they will, when and as the moment they are energy only, consuming themselves, will consume each other as energy, attempting to and trying to, in those last moments, do everything and anything possible to survive as energy, until eventually they are no more. I forgive myself that I haven't accepted and allowed myself to see, realize, and understand, in and as equality and oneness, with and as substance and energy, from and in the beginning, the relationship between energy and substance, the moment the energy of and as the molecules cease to exist, the energy, still existent of and as and from substance, simply existent as a separate portion and segment of and from and as substance, would, in the moment the energy ceased to exist, the energy itself cease to exist. But that ceasing of the energy's existence manifests a reverse process in returning itself, in fact, to substance, where the molecules diminishing and lessening from and of their positive to the neutral and eventually to their origin as energy, as the negative energy, friction and conflict to and towards substance, that the moment they invert the friction and conflict into and as themselves as energy, that moment is where substance consume energy, back into and as itself. Thus, it's essentially that energy with consuming itself is consuming itself back into and as and with substance. And as substance consume energy back into and as itself, each instance that substance moves energy back into and as itself manifested waves within and throughout the substance of and as existence, minute waves that rippled within and through substance as a whole. I forgive myself that I haven't accepted and allowed myself to in and as equality and oneness with and as energy and substance from and in the beginning, see, realize, and understand how, within the continuation of existence as we will walk in these posts to come, the more and more energy returned to substance, as substance consumed and returned in reversed energy into and as itself, the more waves accumulated into and as the substance of existence, to the point where substance in existence would accumulate a positive accumulation of waves and movements and ripples within and as itself. Thus, initially, the movement and motion of substance was within and as negative opposition, in searching for the more of and as itself, and thus, from within and as that first movement and motion forward into its existence, manifested the innumerable amounts of manifested singularities of energy that would, as they return to substance, accumulate the positive interpretation experience within and as substance and existence as a whole. As more and more waves and ripples accumulate within and as substance and existence, as more and more energy return to substance and existence, to the point where eventually there would not be enough manifested singularities of energy to accumulate the waves and ripples and movements within and as substance and existence as a whole. And then substance and existence as a whole's positive energy experience interpretation diminish and lessen, and then would again move in motion the entirety of itself forward in opposition to and with itself, that would again rebirth more manifested singularities within and as itself. And so I forgive myself that I haven't accepted and allowed myself to in and as equality and oneness with and as substance and energy from and in the beginning, see, realize, and understand how and why it's not that energy ceased to exist or that substance ceased to exist as the energy that it had separated itself into and as, but that energy itself as a portion and part and segment of and as substance returned into and as substance to again accumulate substance and existence with and as that which it had given away from and of itself as the part and segment and portion that manifested as energy from and of the friction and conflict as the negative that would return within and through waves as the positive and reaccumulate back into and as substance and existence. This reaccumulation of substance from what it initially had given away, substance and existence interpreted as a positive energy experience as its energy parts returned to itself in waves. With substance not seeing, realizing, and understanding that the energy came into existence as giving away parts of itself, and that the waves it was experiencing was still only itself as its parts returning to itself as energy to substance. But because substance and existence was separated from and of even itself as here, it did not see, realize, and understand the relationship of the negative, neutral, and positive that it had created within itself, and so eternally enslaved itself into and as the relationship with and as itself, from the negative, moving in opposition to and towards itself, creating energy, and to the neutral as the moment substance consume energy back into and as itself, and the positive as the moment the consumption and return of energy to substance manifests the waves and movements and ripples back into itself. So when and as the positive within and as substance and existence eventually diminish and lessen, substance and existence will physically move itself again to re-loop the process from the negative to the neutral and to the positive. I forgive myself that I haven't accepted and allowed myself to in and as equality and oneness with and as energy and substance from and in the beginning, remember, see, realize, and understand how, why, and how the atom and male and even female singularities did not share initially the same fate as their molecules into infinity, with moving themselves closer and closer and closer together to the point of consuming themselves and each other as energy, because the atom and male and even female singularities had the freedom and space in the external existence and substance to move into and as and away from each other the moment they reached the negative energy experience awareness of themselves, a point which the forced molecules into infinity did not have. As the moment they reached their negative energy experience with no more friction and conflict to and towards substance and existence remaining, they were forced to invert that friction and conflict unto themselves as energy, as their last moments, as their devil existence, consuming their own and each other's energy. And so the external positive energy experience interpretation equality of the atom, male, and even female singularities started diminishing. This initiated within their awareness as energy. Fear of loss, of losing that externalized positive energy experience interpretation that gave them the illusion of experiencing even more of and as themselves. And so with energy's very nature within and as the search and seeking of and as the more of and as itself, continued pushing to become closer to each other to attempt and try to maintain that positive energy experience more of and as themselves. But the more and more the atom and male and even female singularities attempted and tried to maintain that external positive energy experience interpretation awareness, the more and more and more it lessened and diminished, as the molecules into infinity started consuming themselves as energy into non-existence as energy, and back into and as the existence of and as substance. And within that, simultaneously as the molecules into infinity lessened and diminished, as the atom and male and even female aura and presence diminished and lessened, the atom and male and even female positive energy experience diminished and lessened, within and as their manifested singularities to the neutral and to the negative, as they no more had any space and substance between them, within and as the direction they were moving into and towards each other, and so could not reach the depths of existence and equally the depths of their beingness to consume substance to transform into energy within and as the equal and one velocity and extent and speed and pace to maintain their equilibrium within and as their positive energy experience, and thus could only consume the amount of substance available to them in the without and within of themselves to manage the negative energy experience, which immediately instigated and initiated the fear and fear of loss awareness of and as energy itself to maintain and manage its own possession and survival of and as energy. And with the atom and male and even female having the space within existence to move, they immediately moved away from each other into the depths of existence and substance without and within themselves to accumulate the energies once again from the negative to the positive and the neutral through consuming substance to transform into energy. In the next post, we'll continue more in detail with how the reverse manifested from friction and conflict as energy-consuming substance to the return of energy to substance within and as the motion and movement of and as waves as energy return to substance as its source and origin. Within this, to come, the process of reincarnation as manifested singularities remerged into and as the existence of substance. I commit myself to show the relationship within the process of the question, which was first, the chicken or the egg, that the chicken, egg, and rooster came into existence simultaneously in and as equality and oneness, through and as the question, there must be more than here, of and as ourselves as existence and substance, manifesting as a movement and motion within and as the existence of ourselves as substance, as the friction and conflict manifestation is a movement and motion in opposition to and towards ourselves as substance and existence. In the moment of that movement, the chicken, egg, and rooster came into existence in one simultaneous moment as substance's relationship to the manifested singularities and the manifested singularities' relationship to themselves and to each other, that set forth the existence of ourselves that would eventually become this physical existence, human beings, and our relationship to ourselves, each other, and this physical existence as a whole. In this, I commit myself to show why and how this question had and could have never been answered within the detail as what will be walked and directly seen within this blog and post that continue, as how we manifested ourselves and all that is here in existence in one simultaneous moment, from the beginning as substance and existence, that the question of the chicken or the egg could not be answered, because the starting point of the question and those asking the question is and has been in separation. And thus, I commit myself to show that as long as one is existing in separation from the mind, the physical body, and this physical existence, one will never see, realize, and understand the origins and responsibilities of ourselves in our relationship to existence as a whole, because we ourselves are the very answers to the questions of the origins of ourselves and existence. And thus, we will only find answers when we can ask the questions in equality and oneness as and with ourselves as existence as a whole. And thus, process to seeing and being as finding and realizing the answers to ourselves and existence as ourselves is walking the process in being and becoming and living equality and oneness in fact, which is what we're walking with and as destiny in the Destiny I process. I commit myself to show that one can only ask the question within the context of who self is, and that all questions within existence has been asked within and who of separation, and so approach the question of ourselves in existence from within separation, searching and seeking the answers to existence in the without of ourselves, when it has been here as us in and as the within of and as ourselves. That to understand the origins of ourselves as existence, we first have to understand the origins of ourselves as the mind, the physical body, in and as equality and oneness with and as ourselves, and therefore we have to take the first step of, in fact, being equal and one with ourselves, the mind, and the physical body, to see, realize, and understand, and have the ability and capacity to ask the questions within and as the who of ourselves in equality and oneness, to see, realize, and understand existence as ourselves here. I commit myself to show how and why everything is in reverse, that everyone had been asking in separation and looking in separation for the answers to ourselves in existence, the why, what, how, when, and where of ourselves, when the answers to the questions exist within us, as us, in the small. I commit myself to show how we've missed the small, the seeming insignificant within existence that is in fact the human being as the mind. We're looking at our relationships as human beings as the mind to existence. We're in fact the small in comparison to the big as this existence as a whole, and that it is thus from within and as the small that the answers to the great exist.